Asterisk, the truth behind this encounter will leave you speechless. By the end of this story, you'll understand why second chances matter more than first impressions. If this touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Asterisk. The expensive wine glass shattered against the restaurant wall, red liquid dripping like blood down the cream-colored paint. Everyone in the upscale bistro fell silent, all eyes fixed on the disheveled woman in tattered clothes standing over the well-dressed man and his mortified date. "You promised me," the beggar woman screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. "You promised you wouldn't forget us." The single father, Marcus Chen, stared in horror at the woman he'd given spare change to just 2 days earlier, now somehow inside one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, destroying what should have been his first successful date in 3 years. What no one in that restaurant knew, not Marcus, not the stunned waitstaff, not the other patrons reaching for their phones to capture the drama, was that the beggar wasn't a beggar at all. She was Eleanor Frost, CEO of Frost International, worth over $2 billion. And she had orchestrated this humiliation with meticulous precision. But why would one of the most powerful women in the business world disguise herself as homeless to ruin a single father's rare night out? The answer would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks earlier, Eleanor Frost sat in her corner office on the 87th floor of the Frost International headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a godlike view of the city below, a city she'd conquered through ruthless determination and strategic brilliance. At 42, she had everything she'd ever wanted: power, wealth, respect. Everything except the one thing money couldn't buy: genuine human connection. "Ms. Frost, the board is waiting in the conference room," her assistant, James, announced from the doorway. Eleanor nodded without looking up from her computer screen. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes. Also, the Foundation Committee needs your decision on this quarter's charitable focus." "Children's education," Eleanor replied automatically. "Same as last quarter." James hesitated. "The committee suggested we might consider homeless services, given the recent coverage of the city's shelter crisis." Eleanor finally looked up, her expression cooling. "The best way out of homelessness is education. We're addressing the root cause, not the symptom." "Of course, Ms. Frost." After James left, Eleanor turned to stare out at the city. Homelessness was a persistent problem, one that made her uncomfortable in ways she refused to examine. She'd built herself from nothing, working through college, clawing her way up the corporate ladder. If she could do it, why couldn't they? Yet lately, something felt hollow about her success. The endless meetings, the acquisition deals, the charity galas where people praised her generosity while secretly envying her power, none of it satisfied her anymore. Her therapist had recently suggested she was suffering from empathy atrophy, a condition common among those who'd spent too long at the top, disconnected from the struggles of ordinary people. Ridiculous, Eleanor muttered to herself. She didn't need empathy. She needed results. Still, the conversation nagged at her. That evening, as her driver navigated through downtown, Eleanor found herself studying the faces of people on the street in a way she never had before. Workers rushing home, tourists taking photos, and, just outside her favorite restaurant, a homeless man holding a sign. "Stop the car," she said suddenly. Her driver, Thomas, looked alarmed. "Here, ma'am." "Yes, here." Eleanor grabbed her purse and stepped onto the curb before he could object. The homeless man seemed startled when she approached. Up close, she noticed he wasn't as old as she'd initially thought, perhaps in his 50s, with weathered skin but clear eyes. "What's your story?" she asked bluntly. The man blinked. "My story?" "Yes. How did you end up here?" "I want the truth, not some sob story to extract money." The man studied her expensive coat and perfectly styled hair. "Truth doesn't seem like what folks like you are looking for, ma'am. Try me. Name's Roy. 26 years at Westside Manufacturing before they moved operations overseas. Had a pension that disappeared in bankruptcy proceedings. Had savings that disappeared in medical bills when my wife got sick. Had a house that disappeared when the bank foreclosed. Anything else you'd like to know? Eleanor felt an unexpected twist in her chest. And what have you done to improve your situation? Roy's laugh held no humor. Everything. Job applications at my age get tossed. Shelters full most nights. Can't get an address without a home, can't get most jobs without an address. It's a system designed to keep people like me exactly where I am. That's defeatist thinking. That's reality, ma'am. But you go on believing whatever helps you sleep in that penthouse of yours. Eleanor opened her mouth to deliver a cutting response but stopped herself. Instead, she reached into her purse and handed him her business card. Come to this address tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ask for me. I'll give you a job. Roy's expression shifted from surprise to suspicion. What kind of job? Janitorial to start. But show me initiative, and that could change. The next day, Eleanor was surprised when Roy actually showed up, clean-shaven, wearing what were clearly donated clothes that didn't quite fit. She assigned him to the maintenance department and largely forgot about him as she returned to her demanding schedule. 3 days later, James informed her that Roy had not only shown up each day but had reorganized the entire supply closet system across 5 floors, saving the company thousands in unnecessary duplicate orders. Intrigued, Eleanor invited Roy to her office. You've impressed the maintenance manager, she said. Roy shrugged. I managed inventory for 20 years before they promoted me to floor supervisor. This is just applying what I know. Why didn't you mention those skills when we met? Would it have mattered? You saw what you expected to see, a homeless failure. The uncomfortable truth of his statement lingered in the air between them. I want to try something, Eleanor said finally. A social experiment, if you will. I want to understand what it's like, to be invisible the way you were. Roy raised his eyebrows. You want to understand homelessness? Not exactly. I want to understand how people treat those they consider beneath them. I want to see the world from that perspective, just briefly. Why? Eleanor hesitated. The real answer, that she felt increasingly disconnected from humanity, that success had built walls she couldn't see past, felt too vulnerable to share. Market research, she said instead. We're developing new programs through the Frost Foundation. Roy didn't look convinced, but he nodded. What exactly do you want me to do? Help me become invisible. Teach me to pass as homeless for one day. What started as a strange impulse became an elaborate plan. Roy helped Eleanor transform herself with thrift store clothes properly weathered, makeup to dull her complexion, and subtle techniques to appear as someone society would rather not see. Remember, Roy cautioned, the hardest part isn't looking homeless, it's feeling homeless. The shame, the way people look through you instead of at you. Eleanor scoffed. I'm quite familiar with people treating me differently based on appearances. Not like this, Roy said quietly. This isn't people treating you with extra respect or desire. This is people treating you like you don't deserve to exist in their space. On a Tuesday morning, Eleanor Frost, disguised as Ellen, sat on a sidewalk in the business district, not far from her own building. She'd given herself one day to experience this experiment, leaving James with instructions that she was taking a personal day for the first time in 5 years. The first hour was boring. The second was humiliating. A woman pulled her child closer when walking past. A businessman loudly complained on his phone about these people ruining the neighborhood. 3 hours in, Eleanor had received $2.37 in change, countless averted gazes, and one coffee cup thrown near, but not at, her by teenagers. By afternoon, something had shifted inside her. The invisibility was crushing. The perpetual discomfort, nowhere to rest, nowhere to relieve herself without being chased away, the growing hunger, all created a stress she hadn't anticipated. Most disturbing was how quickly she began to feel less than, as though the disgust in people's eyes was justified. As evening approached, Eleanor was ready to abandon the experiment when a man stopped in front of her. Average height, Asian American, wearing a maintenance uniform from one of the nearby office buildings. He held a little girl's hand, perhaps 5 or 6 years old. "Are you hungry?" he asked directly, looking at Eleanor's face rather than past her. The question caught her off guard. Yes. Without hesitation, he reached into a takeout bag he was carrying. "We have extra. My daughter and I always get too much." He handed her a container still warm with what smelled like teriyaki chicken. "Say hi, Lily," he prompted the little girl. "Hi," the child said shyly. "My daddy says everyone deserves dinner." Eleanor felt an unexpected tightness in her throat. "Thank you, Lily." "And thank you." She looked at the man questioningly. "Marcus," he supplied. "Marcus Chen." "Thank you, Marcus." He nodded. "There's a shelter on 8th that might have beds tonight. Better than staying out here." After they left, Eleanor ate the food slowly, watching as Marcus and his daughter disappeared down the street. Something about the simple kindness, delivered without pity or judgment, had pierced through her carefully constructed armor. The next day, back in her executive clothes and perfect makeup, Eleanor couldn't shake thoughts of the maintenance worker and his daughter. During her foundation meeting, she found herself interrupting the committee's presentation. "I want to expand our homeless services program," she announced. "Not just education initiatives. Immediate needs, food, shelter, healthcare, job training." The committee members exchanged surprised glances but quickly adjusted their proposals. Later that afternoon, Eleanor was leaving a coffee shop when she spotted a familiar face, Marcus Chen, in his maintenance uniform, apparently on break. Acting on impulse, she approached him. "Excuse me." He looked up, clearly not recognizing her without the disguise. "Can I help you?" "I'm Eleanor Frost. I own Frost International." She extended her hand. Marcus shook it, looking confused. "Marcus Chen. Can I ask what this is about?" "I'm looking for someone to head a new community outreach program through our foundation. Your name was mentioned as someone with exceptional character." His confusion deepened. "My name? By whom? That's not important. What matters is that I'm offering you a job that pays 3 times what you're making now, with flexible hours to accommodate your daughter's schedule." Marcus stared at her. "Is this some kind of joke?" "I never joke about business, Mr. Chen. Here's my card. Come to my office tomorrow if you're interested." Eleanor walked away before he could respond, feeling strangely satisfied. It wasn't entirely logical, this impulse to reward a single act of kindness, but something about it felt right in a way her usual business decisions rarely did. To her surprise, Marcus didn't show up the next day. Or the day after. When a week passed with no word, Eleanor found herself unusually bothered by the rejection. She had James track down Marcus's contact information and called him directly. "Mr. Chen, this is Eleanor Frost. I'm wondering why you didn't follow up on my job offer." There was a long pause before he answered. "Ms. Frost, I appreciate the opportunity, but I did some research. Your company has a reputation for brutal hours and high pressure. I'm a single dad. My daughter needs me present, not just financially secure." The honesty stunned her. "I see. What if I guaranteed in writing that your hours would be strictly 9 to 5, with ample personal leave?" "Why me?" he asked directly. "There must be hundreds of qualified people without having to recruit a maintenance worker." Eleanor hesitated. "Let's just say I've been re-evaluating what qualifications really matter." After further negotiation, Marcus agreed to at least interview for the position. When he arrived at Frost International, he brought impressive community college credentials and unexpected management experience from before his wife's death had derailed his career path. Eleanor hired him that day, placing him in charge of a new initiative connecting homeless individuals with job opportunities across the Frost corporate network. For the first time in years, she felt genuinely excited about a business decision. Over the following weeks, Eleanor found herself directly involved with Marcus's program, offering suggestions and resources beyond what she typically devoted to foundation work. She told herself it was simply ensuring the success of a new venture, but the truth was that she enjoyed Marcus's straightforward approach and clear moral compass. As for Marcus, his initial wariness gradually gave way to cautious respect. The job allowed him to pick up Lily from school each day and provided stability they hadn't known since his wife's death 3 years earlier. What neither acknowledged was the subtle shift in their professional relationship, the lingering conversations, the shared lunches discussing program strategies, the way Eleanor made time in her schedule whenever Marcus requested a meeting. 2 months into the program, Eleanor arrived at the office to find Roy waiting outside her door. "You're interested in him," Roy stated without preamble. "I don't know what you're talking about," Eleanor replied coolly. "Marcus Chen. You've never spent this much time with any other foundation project. The board is talking." Eleanor felt her cheeks warm. "The board should focus on our quarterly projections." Roy shook his head. "For someone so smart, you're being pretty obtuse. That man has been through hell. His wife died of the same cancer that bankrupted them. He worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over his daughter's head. He doesn't need a CEO playing games with his life." "I'm not playing games," Eleanor said sharply. "I respect Marcus. The program is important. And the fact that he's the first person who's treated you like a human being in years has nothing to do with it." Eleanor fell silent, the truth of Roy's words hitting uncomfortably close to home. "Just be careful," Roy said more gently. "Some people can't afford the luxury of your social experiments." That evening, Eleanor canceled her usual dinner meeting and instead sat alone in her penthouse, a rare glass of wine in hand as she considered Roy's warning. Was she merely interested in Marcus because he'd shown her kindness when he thought she was homeless? Was this whole program just an elaborate way to keep him in her orbit? No, she decided. The program was already showing results, 20 formerly homeless individuals employed, with retention rates far higher than industry average. The work was valuable regardless of her personal feelings. As for those feelings, Eleanor sipped her wine thoughtfully. It had been years since she'd allowed herself to consider any relationship beyond professional networking. Her last serious boyfriend had made it clear he found her ambition and work schedule incompatible with a future together. Marcus was different. He understood sacrifice and hard work. He valued integrity over status. And the way he looked at her sometimes, when he thought she was focused on program documents. Eleanor set down her glass. This was ridiculous. She was Eleanor Frost, CEO of a multinational corporation. She didn't moon over employees like a lovesick teenager. The next day, she maintained a strictly professional demeanor with Marcus, focusing entirely on program metrics during their scheduled meeting. If he noticed the change, he didn't comment. As the meeting concluded, however, he cleared his throat nervously. "Ms. Frost, I was wondering if I might ask you something personal." Eleanor tensed. "Of course. There's a thank you dinner for program volunteers this Friday. As program director, I'm expected to attend, and we're encouraged to bring guests." He hesitated. "Would you consider coming? The foundation would benefit from your presence, and it would mean a lot to the volunteers."